Have you ever noticed how life can change in a single day? One ordinary morning, you wake up believing everything is under control. You follow your usual routine, make your plans, and think tomorrow will look just like today. But before the sun sets, one phone call, one conversation, one unexpected event can change everything. If you're listening to this right now while carrying a heavy heart, this message is for you. Maybe you've been pretending to smile while silently fighting battles no one knows about. Maybe you lost someone you loved, watched a dream disappear, or reached a point where you're simply exhausted from trying to stay strong. The truth is, every person faces moments that test their spirit. Most people believe pain is something to escape. They search for distractions, hoping time will erase the hurt. But the greatest thinkers throughout history believe something very different. They understood that suffering is often the place where true character is born. Imagine a blacksmith placing iron into an intense fire. The heat doesn't destroy the metal. It shapes it. Without the fire, the sword would never become strong enough to survive battle. Human life works the same way. The hardest seasons often reveal strengths we never knew existed. There was once a young man who believed success meant avoiding failure at all costs. He carefully planned every step of his future. He thought that if he worked hard enough, life would reward him exactly as he imagined. Then, within a few months, everything collapsed. His business failed. His closest relationship ended. Friends he trusted slowly disappeared. Every morning became a struggle just to get out of bed. For a long time, he asked only one question: why is this happening to me? The question haunted him. No answer ever came. One evening, after another difficult day, he sat alone watching the sunset. For the first time, he stopped asking why and asked a different question. What can this experience teach me? That single question changed the direction of his life. His problems didn't disappear overnight. The sadness remained. The uncertainty stayed. But something inside him became different. Instead of seeing himself as a victim, he became a student of life. Every challenge became a lesson. Every disappointment became an opportunity to grow wiser. Slowly, he realized that the strongest people aren't those who avoid pain. They're the ones who learn from it. Think about the people you admire most. The greatest leaders, the kindest teachers, the most inspiring artists. Very few of them lived easy lives. Almost every remarkable story begins with struggle. Difficult moments force us to discover qualities that comfort never can. Patience, humility, compassion, courage. Without hardship, these qualities often remain hidden. Nature teaches this lesson everywhere. A seed must disappear beneath the soil before it becomes a tree. A butterfly must struggle to leave its cocoon before it can fly. Even diamonds are created under enormous pressure. Growth has never been comfortable. Perhaps that's why your current season feels so difficult. Maybe life isn't trying to punish you. Maybe it's preparing you for responsibilities you cannot yet imagine. Preparing your heart to understand others more deeply. Preparing your mind to remain calm when future storms arrive. Many people quit because they believe pain means they're on the wrong path. Sometimes, pain simply means you're becoming stronger. The ancient philosophers believed that while we cannot control what happens around us, we always have the power to choose our response. That choice changes everything. You may not control losing your job. You may not control heartbreak. You may not control unexpected disappointments. But you always control the person those experiences shape you into. That is where real freedom begins. So, if today feels overwhelming, if your future looks uncertain, if you're carrying burdens nobody else can see, remember this. Your hardest day does not define your future. It introduces you to the strongest version of yourself. Every obstacle is quietly asking the same question. Will this break you or will it build you? The answer isn't hidden inside your circumstances. It's hidden inside your decision. Choose to keep moving. Choose to keep learning. Choose to believe that today's pain can become tomorrow's wisdom. Because one day, you'll look back on this chapter, not with regret, but with gratitude. You'll realize the moment you thought your life was falling apart was actually the moment it began coming together in a way you never expected. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. Your darkest season may not be the end of your story. It may simply be the beginning of the person you were always meant to become. After the hardest season of his life, the young man expected everything to become easier. It didn't. Life continued to test him. There were mornings when hope felt distant and nights when silence seemed louder than any noise around him. The world expected him to move on, but healing refused to follow anyone else's schedule. One afternoon, while walking through a quiet park, he noticed an old tree standing alone. Half of its branches were broken from years of storms, yet fresh green leaves continued to grow from the remaining limbs. He stood there for several minutes. The tree wasn't pretending the storms had never happened. Its scars were visible. Its wounds were real, yet it continued growing. At that moment, he understood something he had never realized before. Strength doesn't mean avoiding damage. Strength means continuing to grow despite it. For years, he had believed emotions were signs of weakness. Whenever he felt afraid, disappointed, or heartbroken, he tried to hide those feelings from everyone around him. He wore a smile even when his heart was heavy. He laughed while carrying silent pain. Eventually, he became exhausted. Pretending to be okay required more energy than facing the truth. So one evening, he allowed himself to be honest. He admitted that he was scared. He admitted that he felt lost. He admitted that he didn't have all the answers. Surprisingly, nothing terrible happened. Instead of making him weaker, honesty made him lighter. For the first time in months, he felt like he could breathe again. He began to understand that courage isn't pretending fear doesn't exist. Real courage is moving forward while fear walks beside you. As time passed, he started noticing something remarkable. The people who inspired him most weren't perfect. They weren't fearless. They weren't lucky. They had simply refused to quit after disappointment. Every successful person carried invisible scars. Every kind person had experienced pain. Every wise person had survived seasons of confusion. Suddenly, he stopped comparing his struggles to everyone else's victories. He realized he had been comparing his behind-the-scenes reality to other people's highlight reels. That comparison had stolen his peace. So he made a new promise to himself. Instead of asking, "Why am I not where they are?" he asked, "How can I become better than I was yesterday?" That simple change transformed his mindset. Progress became more important than perfection. Growth became more valuable than approval. He no longer needed everyone to understand his journey. Some roads are meant to be walked alone. Along the way, he met an elderly man who shared a piece of wisdom that stayed with him forever. The old man smiled and said, "Life doesn't reward the fastest person. It rewards the one who refuses to stop walking." Those words echoed through his mind whenever life became difficult, whenever another door closed, whenever another plan failed, whenever another setback appeared. He remembered that every step forward still counted. Little by little, his confidence returned. Not because life became easier, but because he became stronger. He discovered abilities that comfort had never revealed. Patience, discipline, gratitude, self-respect. These qualities had quietly grown inside him while he was busy surviving. Looking back, he realized something unexpected. The greatest gift of his life had never arrived wrapped in comfort. They arrived disguised as challenges. Failure taught him humility. Loneliness taught him self-worth. Loss taught him gratitude. Pain taught him compassion. Without those experiences, he would have remained the same person forever. Now, he understood why difficult seasons are necessary. Just as muscles grow stronger after resistance, the human spirit becomes stronger after adversity. Every obstacle had been preparing him for responsibilities he wasn't ready to carry before. The storms had not come to destroy him. They had come to shape him. If someone had asked him whether he would erase those painful years, he would have paused before answering. The suffering had been real. The tears had been real. But so had the lessons. Without those experiences, he would never have become the person standing there today. Sometimes the road ahead still looked uncertain. Sometimes fear returned without warning. But now he knew something he hadn't known before. Confidence doesn't come from knowing everything will work out. Confidence comes from knowing you'll find a way forward, no matter what happens. That realization changed everything. The future was no longer something to fear. It became something to discover. And as he continued walking toward the next chapter of his life, he finally understood a truth that had been waiting for him all along. The strongest hearts are not the ones that have never been broken. They are the ones that choose to keep loving, keep believing, and keep moving forward, even after life has tested them again and again. Because every scar carries a lesson. Every challenge carries a purpose. And every new sunrise reminds us that no matter how dark yesterday was, another chance always arrives with the morning. Years passed, and the young man often found himself thinking about the person he used to be. He remembered the version of himself who believed that life had to be perfect before happiness could exist. The version who thought success meant never failing. The version who believed strength meant never crying. Now, standing on the other side of countless challenges, he smiled at those old beliefs. Life had taught him something far more valuable. Perfection was never the goal. Growth was. One morning, while climbing a small hill before sunrise, he stopped halfway and looked back at the path he had traveled. From the top, every difficult road suddenly made sense. The steep climbs, the rocky trails, the moments when he wanted to turn around, each one had prepared him for the view he was seeing now. He realized that life works the same way. While we're inside the struggle, everything feels confusing. But when we continue moving forward, the purpose slowly becomes clear. As he continued his journey, people began asking him how he stayed positive during difficult times. He would simply smile. "I wasn't always positive," he admitted. "There were days when I wanted to give up. There were nights when I questioned everything. The difference is that I stopped believing difficult moments would last forever." That became his greatest lesson. Pain is temporary. Growth is permanent. The storms that once terrified him eventually became stories he used to encourage others. He discovered something remarkable. Our greatest wounds often become the places where we can help other people heal. The person who has survived loneliness understands those who feel invisible. The person who has experienced failure knows how to encourage someone who wants to quit. The person who has faced heartbreak understands the language of broken hearts. Nothing is ever wasted. Not your tears. Not your failures. Not your disappointments. Every experience adds another layer of wisdom to your life. One evening, he met a young student who was overwhelmed by fear about the future. The student asked, "What if I fail?" He smiled gently before answering, "What if you succeed in ways you can't imagine? What if every obstacle teaches you something no classroom ever could? What if your greatest setback becomes a reason someone else finds hope?" The student remained silent. For the first time, he realized that fear wasn't predicting the future. It was simply imagining the worst. From that day forward, the young man stopped chasing certainty. Instead, he chose courage, because certainty rarely exists. But courage can exist every single day. He learned that courage isn't a feeling. It's a decision to keep going even when the destination isn't visible. A decision to believe that today's confusion can become tomorrow's wisdom. As the years passed, he noticed another truth. The happiest people weren't those who owned the most. They weren't always the richest. They weren't always the most famous. They were the people who appreciated ordinary moments. A quiet morning, a conversation with someone they loved, a walk beneath an open sky, a deep breath after surviving another difficult season. Gratitude changed everything. When he focused on what he still had instead of what he'd lost, life began feeling richer. Not because his problems disappeared, but because his perspective changed. He finally understood that peace doesn't come from controlling life. Peace comes from accepting that change is part of life. Every ending creates space for a new beginning. Every goodbye makes room for a new hello. Every challenge prepares us for responsibilities we haven't yet imagined. Looking back, he no longer wishes difficult years had never happened. Without them, he would still be searching for happiness in places that could never provide it. Now, he carried something much more valuable: inner strength, self-respect, patience, compassion, wisdom. These were treasures no one could take away. As the sun slowly disappeared below the horizon, he smiled with quiet confidence. The road ahead was still uncertain. There would still be unexpected storms. There would still be losses. There would still be moments of doubt. But none of those things frightened him anymore, because he had already discovered the most important truth of all. Life doesn't ask us to be perfect. It asks us to keep growing. It asks us to keep learning. It asks us to rise one more time than we fall. If you're listening to this today while carrying burdens no one else can see, remember this. You are stronger than your fears. You are wiser than your failures. You are greater than your worst day. Every challenge you survived has been preparing you for the life that's still ahead. Trust your journey. Trust your growth. Trust the quiet strength that's already living inside you. One day, you'll look back at everything you thought would break you and realize it became the very reason you discovered who you truly are. Your story isn't ending. It's only beginning. And the best chapters of your life are still waiting to be written.